This demo is to show how to get P5js set up to be listening to the mic input and use the amplitude level from the mic input in order to get a number into processing that you can use to do things like control shapes and colors. Okay, so to get started, I have a brand new P5js project open. And to add sound, to add the functions for sound, the first thing I have to do is I need to add the sound library. So if I go up to Sketch, Import Library, I'll add p5.sound, and you see a message down here. It says copy p5.sound to the libraries folder of this sketch. So what that means is if I right click on the top bar here and go to where this project is, each project when you create it has a libraries folder. And now processing for us has copied in the p5sound.js file that's needed. And then the first time that we run this, you will be able to confirm this because it'll add the p5sound.js here. So let's just run it even though it's empty. We open it up, we see nothing, we haven't done anything yet. And if I go back and look, you can see here that it has added to that. So we don't have to do anything with that index.html file. Okay, so let's get started. First, we're going to size our project. So we'll say resize canvas. We want to make this the window width and the window height, like so. Oh, and you have to spell it correctly. And then let's also make the background black so that we can know that it's working. Okay, so if I hit save, come back over to Chrome and hit refresh. Yep, made it black, and it's the size of my full window. Great. Okay, so to get started with bringing the microphone in, the first thing we have to do here is create a variable, and we're just going to call it mic. Now we can name it anything we want that isn't already code, but it's always good to name variables short and related to what they're going to do. A couple other things, variable names can't start with numbers and they can't have spaces. So let's just call this mic. So we're going to say let mic, and we'll just do it like that for now. We're not going to let mic equal anything, but we will do that next. So we define our variable outside of the scope of these functions. It's because we're going to want to reference it in both functions, multiple functions eventually, but we want to be able to reference mic both in the setup in order to start the process of listening to the microphone, but then also in the draw to continue listening to the microphone. So since we want it to be available in both of these functions, we have to define it outside of both of the functions up here in the global scope. Okay, so then inside of setup, we'll say mic equals new p5.audio in, and then mic.start. In order to get the value from the microphone, we are going to set a variable inside of draw called amp, as in like amplitude, and we're going to set that to mic.getLevel. Now, when it gets the level back, if we were to just do this, amp is going to come back as a very, very small number. It's going to be like 0.01 to 0.5, 0.6, maybe 0.7 if it's really, really loud. It returns a number between 0 and 1. And so in order to get that to be something we can use, like the size of a square, which is what we're going to do, we have to multiply this by a larger number. So let's times it by 1,000. So this function, mic.getLevel, is going to return a number between 0 and 1, a decimal point, a very small number. And now by timesing it by 1,000, that will increase the number that we're working with there. So we're getting the number into amp, and then we can draw a rectangle. So let's do like we did before. Let's draw the rectangle where the mouse is, because that makes it kind of fun right away. And we will set the width and the height to whatever number comes back for amp. So if amp is really quiet, the square will be really small. If amp is really loud, high, the number is high, then the square will be really big. Now, the last thing that we have to do before the microphone input will work in the browser is we have to add a function to start the audio. And this is like a security thing that the browsers implement so that you have to require that the user of your program clicks in the window or takes some sort of decisive action in the window before it can access a piece of hardware. And so that is why we add this function every time we're working with the mic, which is in function mouse pressed, we're going to say user start audio. And that's it. So you know you'll have to click to get started, but then once you click, the rectangle should be responding to the microphone and following the cursor. So we'll hit save, hit refresh. Yep, so good start so far. It's wanting access to the microphone. I will click allow. You also notice here this microphone is in the version of the icon that is telling us that we have access to it. If we had denied it, this would be like red with a slash through it. Okay, so now if I click in my browser window, now you can see that the microphone is controlling the size of the square. So now I have microphone input controlling what I'm drawing. Now I can go back and kind of fiddle some things that we were playing with before. So for example, it's drawing the rectangle from the upper corner. So I can do rect mode center. So now if I click and then start drawing, you can see that it's responding and drawing from the center. I can set my fill to be a color. So instead of white, now it's pink. I could also set it so that instead of a number, like picking the number 255, maybe I put an amp there to see what happens. So now when I refresh it and click, you can see that the amp, the louder the sound, the more red there is in the shape. And then just to finish it off, let's add our JPEG saving. So we'll say function key pressed if key code double equals 32, which is the spacebar. Save canvas mic amp demo 01.jpg. Make sure I typed that all correctly. Put an underscore there, keep it consistent. So then now when I draw and draw, and then if I hit the space bar, you see here that it saves the JPEG of my drawing. So that is how to set up the microphone and get the level from the microphone, also known as the amplitude, into processing as a number that you can then start using and playing with anywhere you can put a number within your drawing function. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.